What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, giving you guys a quick deck profile of the deck that I took to Remote Duel Regionals on Sunday. This was the Waffles and Enthusiasm Remote Duel Regionals, and I got 6th place. I went X1 and 1, and what better way to commemorate the regional top 8 than with a deck profile, because that's how I used to do it in the past. I haven't made top 8 at a regional in a billion years, and as you guys can imagine, looking at the cards on the bottom of the screen, I did in fact play Runic Stun. And wait, before you dislike the video, because I know Runic Stun is a cancerous deck that no one wants to duel against. Believe me, I played this deck at 2 YCSs this year. If you met me at Vegas or at Richmond or even the Remote Duel Regionals, I've played this at. You're probably like, Cap, you're a villain. And, I agree. It's just an easy deck to play. It has a really good matchup, spread against the top tier decks. Honestly, like Tier, Manadium, Unchained, Rescue Ace, the matchups are just, they're incredibly free. The only bad common matchup is Labyrinth. That matchup is actually just unwinnable. You can't beat that deck. But, yeah, I played the deck just because I thought it was an excellent meta call. For the most part, people don't play Cosmic Cyclone, so you punish them for that. I played on my beautiful Captain Carry mat. I don't know why people don't like Gold Pride. I got Starlight Gold Pride monsters. I'm going to break the deck down, explain it to you guys. I don't have the regional top 8 mat, but I will post a picture in the description showing you guys the final standings of the event. But I don't have the mat yet because they have to mail it out to me. Anyways, I'll be back in a second, and I'll show you guys like the full main deck and then later the side and this is my main deck, and I guess I'll just go through it slowly so that I can kind of explain some of the cards. It was based on Johnny Wynn's YCS top 32 deck from Indy, but I did change some things. I changed basically like 3 cards in the deck, some things I didn't like. I main deck Inspector Border. It's the only monster in this deck. The whole point of cards like Border or a Mono Awato is that you're supposed to, like, these cards essentially insulate you from hand traps on your first turn, right? So like you can activate, you normal summon them, and then you can activate Runic Tip, Runic Fountain. Your opponent can't Ash, they can't Bell, they can't droll you after any of your, adding cards or anything like that. Border going second, not the absolute strongest, but you can turn it into Typhon. Going first, honestly, any combo deck, most decks in the game right now, this card plus like Flashing Fire or Slumber, it's almost an FTK. Generally speaking, combo decks they can't get over unless they have Fenrir, and then you just use 1 removal card on Fenrir and you just win. The traps are just, what you would expect. We play every floodgate that God gave us. We play a lot of them. Those skill drains are ulti, but you can't actually tell, unfortunately. Same thing with those rivalries. They're CRs, but you can't tell. Yeah, 3 skill drain, 3 rivalry, 3 TC Boo, and then 2 goes in match. Basically, these are just to so this is a stun deck, and we're going to need to obviously stun our opponent, but this is the way that we not only break boards, but we make it so that our opponent ain't doing a lot. Outside of Labyrinth, this crushes most matchups if you have like a combination of these floodgates. The only downside, I guess, really is skill drain, which may have actually been, I guess, one of the weaker. It's probably the weakest floodgate in here because skill drain does kind of conflict with Fugan. Can't use the protection effect if skill drain is up, so your opponent does have an opportunity to feather duster you there. But generally speaking, these floodgates are really strong, and when you combine them, like there may be certain decks that rivalry isn't that strong against, but then when you have TC Boo, it's like, what are they going to do? Scrub Raid. Thank goodness for Asian Persuasion figuring out this card, because I wouldn't have found it. I used to play Messenger of Peace. Scrub Raid is just better though because 1, it can be used multiple times in a turn. 2, doesn't cost any life points. 3, you can use it during both battle phases, which is important because it can get cards out of the EMZ, because that's one problem with Labyrinth, Runic. You summon a monster to the EMZ, and then sometimes it just gets stuck there, and you need to be able to use Hunin to protect yourself from Feather Dust or a Lightning Storm, and your opponent won't kill that monster. Scrub Raid is a way to just enter battle phase when you don't have the Runic restriction and just tribute that card. This card is so old, it doesn't even have problem-solving card text, and it's only been printed 1 time, but if you are going to play this deck, this is the specific card that I think that you should play. Also, it works with the runic spells. Basically, just wait for your opponent to enter battle phase. You can activate a runic spell, then chain Scrub Raid is Chain Link 2, send the runic spell, they're both going to resolve. And also, I didn't even know this until the last round of Swiss. This card is not, it's a 5Ds card, so it's not a once per turn, or obviously a hard once per turn. If you were to use Scrub Raid and then your opponent activates like Cosmic on it, you can just chain it again and send something else. The runic lineup, and I ordered this from, in terms of like impact, obviously the most important card is going to be Fountain. That's the entire like deck basically is just, draw cards from Fountain, replenish your hand constantly. And then Tip is the best runic card because it can be all of the runic cards. But then, and this is, with these other cards, you basically just run 3 of all of them. Don't cut down on any of these numbers. 3 copies of Slumber. Slumber was like Slumber overperformed, and I think it's because specifically I play Border. So when my opponent had the, one random card that could answer Border, whether it be like, well, usually it was just, Cashier or Fenrir, I can just make it so that Fenrir can't attack, start decking my opponent out. They can't Ash the Fountain or do anything to stop that, so I just draw cards and then win. 3 copies of Destruction. This is a card that, in a format with a lot of combo decks like Vanadium and Tyr and stuff like Infernoble, you would think that this card's bad, but the way that Yu-Gi-Oh is structured right now, where every deck has a Rhoda field spell and all these Visas field spells, they all search, they're all just mandatory in these decks. This card always gets value. You can just MST one of the planets, you MST the Noble, whatever the Noble card they search, or something like Durendal. You get a 1-for-1, start banishing 4 off their deck. Flashing Fire, just generally good. Unfortunately, I played against Flu in round 1, and I actually had to like side one of these out because I couldn't use it on any of the monsters. And then Freezing Chains, the Imperm. This was actually the worst of the cards that I run 3 of, mainly because Imperm is cute, but I do run Skill Drain, and it's kind of I'm pretty sure it's the same ruling as like Impermanence or Widow Anchor, where if Skill Drain is up, you cannot use Freezing Chain because you're trying to negate an effect that's already negated. I had so many people try to Imperm one of my monsters when I had Skill Drain up, and I'm like, no, you can't try to negate something that's already negated. I played the Hammer. And then I also played Golden Droplet, which for some reason I always call Wonder Balloons. This is my favorite runic card, Golden Droplet, just because it takes 5 cards out of your opponent's deck, which is huge. When you really get control of the game and you've got your opponent floodgated, they can't attack, like Golden Droplet puts in work. I mean, yes, your opponent draws a card, but you don't care because you're decking them out. And honestly, unless you specifically draw a Cosmic Cyclone, I don't care what you draw. You're just drawing some stupid dead card. Even if you draw Ash, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll just Fountain during your turn or during the next turn. The Hammer is actually the worst card. It's the worst runic card in the deck by far. I almost never used it for the banish effect. But the thing about runic is sometimes you just need ways to stop attacks. Like, your opponent might be able to break through your floodgates or your defenses, and you just have to block an attack. And, sometimes you need different names because all the runic cards are like hard ones per turns, except the Fountain. So you just need to be able to get a different name so that you can defend yourself with like a Gary or something like that to stop an attack. For the spells or other spells, the non-runic ones, well, I guess we'll start with Morganite. Morganite, I would say, is basically our version of Card of Demise. If you look at the OCG runic stun builds, they all run triple Demise because that card is insane. It says draw 3, but we don't have Card of Demise at 3. We only have 1. So Morganite is kind of like the next best thing. This lets you draw 2 cards in your draw phase after the turn, basically for the remainder of the duel after it's activated. This is the card that just like ensures that you win, because there are going to be games where you resolve this turn 1. And if your opponent doesn't kill you during their turn, you almost win the game by default, because you're drawing 2 cards every turn to their 1. And then when you have like Fountain can potentially draw 3. I mean, there's going to be some turns where you honestly draw like 5-6 cards in a turn. And then my little like supplemental package, all runic builds run Card of Demise, but I don't like Pot of Duality in this deck, honestly, because in any given turn, sometimes you just need to be able to summon a fusion monster with the runic cards, and I don't want to put myself in a position to where I can't special summon unless it says draw 3 with Card of Demise. So instead, I played Terraforming, which is just, another copy of Fountain, and I played One Day of Peace. One Day of Peace is awesome. Who cares? Again, if your opponent draws a card, I don't care. I'm trying to deck you out. The more important part about One Day of Peace is that I can't take any damage. So if One Day of Peace resolves, it doesn't matter what you do during your turn, like you can't kill me, which is really the whole point of stun decks. It's like if your opponent does break free of all the constriction that the floodgates give you, then One Day of Peace just ensures they can't end the game. And usually you have something like Fountain to draw cards, or you have Morganite where you're drawing 2 cards in your draw phase, and you have a bunch of cards in your hand anyways. So that is the main deck. I would not actually change a single card in the main deck. I feel like the main deck was completely fine. Let's look at the side and the extra. For my side and extra, so I played 3 copies of Poison of the Old Man and then 3 Spooky Dogwood. These are just time cheese cards. Actually, the biggest problem with Runic stun is that you go into time. Honestly, I think it's just a Runic problem in general. You go into time, and usually you win game 1 pretty easily. But your game 1 can take it can sometimes take 30 minutes. One game 1, I think it was like 35 minutes or whatever. Even with remote duels giving you 50 minutes per round, you go into time. And then if game 2, you use like a skill drain or you take like 1 attack, then your opponent's up in life points, and the game is like a draw by default. So like I wasn't trying to deal with that. People also slow play against Runic. They're under floodgates. They check their graveyards. They do all of this time stalling BS, and then you end up drawing. So I wasn't having any of that. These cards, Poison of the Old Man and Spooky Dogwood, were actually supposed to be these cards. The cards I wanted to run was Firecracker and Emergency Provisions, and I would 100% swap these out. Actually, I'd still run her, but Emergency Provisions is just infinitely better than Poison of the Old Man, and it's because Emergency Provisions first off, you can activate this, or you can chain it to like Runic cards, and still getting life points, but this can give you, potentially like 5,000 life points or something like that. It also is a way to turn off skill drain. Like if you have skill drain on the field, and your opponent tries to get the cheeky Feather Duster or Lightning Storm, against you, and they're like, oh, well, you can't summon Hugin and Protect because you have Skill Drain. What you can do is activate like a Runic card to summon your Hugin. Then you can Chain Link 2, activate Provisions. You send Skill Drain, send the Runic card as a cost, send anything else that you don't need, potentially, and then you can like still use Hugin to protect against the Skill Drain, or against the Feather Duster or whatever card they're using to destroy, because Skill Drain is off the field as a cost. So, and for Firecracker, for those who don't know, this is just a discard. You just discard this card, burn your opponent for 1,000. So it means that even in time, no matter what phase your opponent's in, like if time is called, they're in the main phase. If you're going to game 3, you're not going to get a turn. This is like another way of being able to alter life points, much like Spooky Dogwood, to where you don't auto draw. You know what I mean? Or if your opponent is playing a time cheese card of their own, you have one to counter. Plus, you can play it going first. If you're the only one who gets a turn, you just, activate it, burn them for 1,000, and then you just win. The other cards, Board Breakers. This is like, we don't play hand traps. Well, I guess this is a hand trap, but it's just a cheese time card. We're a stun deck. We don't really play hand traps. Instead, we play Board Breakers. This is the reason that this deck doesn't lose to combo decks. You just let combo decks make whatever stupid board they're going to make. If you draw these cards, you automatically win the duel anyways, because it's like, cool. I played against Vanadium. I beat 2 Vanadiums yesterday. One guy, he made a board of SP, reframing, and like 3 synchros or something like that. And I was like, cool, have this spear mode. All your synchros are gone. Your reframing is turned off. You have SP and nothing else. And then I just flipped over Robbery and won the game. So Dart Bribe, this is primarily supposed to be for spell and trap removal. I never got Even Lead, but basically Evenly Cosmic. Cosmic, like, nobody plays that card, which is one of the reasons why this deck is really good, because no one plays the biggest counter. Honestly, I would probably not play this, and I would continue playing this, and then these 2. Like, I just don't think Dart Bribe is necessary until people actually start playing Cosmic, so I would just play more time cards to, like, cheese the opponent. Extra deck, also really simple. I did not use this card search effect very often. I don't really believe in trying to search Fountain by discarding. Like, I used it if I could chain block it with a Fountain that I already had, but generally speaking, this card is just, it's an absolute imperm just magnet. this thing will get impermed all day. Imperm is not really good against this deck. I don't want to make my opponent's hand traps and stuff live if I don't have to. So usually the way that I was searching for Fountain was just terraforming or tip, or just trying to like hard draw. So I didn't use her effect very often. Moonin, just a cheese time card, basically, you know, gives you 1,000 life points. Gary, main card that you summon to block attacks, because Gary can absorb an attack, then he can pop an opponent's monster. Sometimes you summon 2 Garys in one of your opponent's battle phase, block 4 attacks. This card actually low-key suck in this deck. it's insane in generators because it's level 9, but in runic, like pure runic stun, you basically never use this card. I mean, this is a QCR, and it's just like wasted money, honestly. Frecky, never honestly summoned him. He's probably even worse than Slipnar. And then for the Xyz, only 2 of them I would argue like you need to 100% run. Typhon, because sometimes you're just going to go second in game 1 against the big board decks, and you can turn Border or any of these runic cards, any of the fusions, instantly turn into Typhon, turn off like Barons and stuff like that. Cowboy for game, normal summon Inspect the Border, activate runic card, there's a rank 4, which also means these 2 as well. I mean, this was just supposed to be like floodgate removal for like anti-spell, dumb stuff like that. And then 41 is just like, you know, a floodgate, but like you already have so many floodgates. Honestly, you don't even need it. But yep, this is just a quick deck profile, which probably wasn't even that quick. Anyways, this deck is disbanded, so this will be the last time that you guys see it. Thank you guys for watching. As always, leave whatever thoughts in the comment section below. Maybe I'll just give away the mat. I think it's like Dark Hole Dragon or something like that. I don't even want it. Maybe I'll keep it. Who knows? Thank you guys for watching, as always.